102.3 KJLH Compton, Los Angeles.
You've actually written 3 books by now that I have. And all of them have the through line of being inspirational. I mean, and it's interesting because a lot of people that have success in Hollywood or in the entertainment business, regardless of where they start, do not necessarily circle back to let me inspire others. But your first book out the box, that's the direction you went. It's like you, from a background as the son of a pastor and then an early preacher, you become an inspirational entertainer, producer.
Yeah, I suppose, I just feel responsibility. Growing up, having desires and dreams and hopes and aspirations, it was one thing to have that, but no one really told me how to do it. So I've always felt compelled that as I've been blessed with opportunity to go back and do my best to teach at that point. So when I wrote my first book, Produced by Faith, which came out like 7 years ago, actually, almost, it was just like, listen, I don't know it all, but I'm going to teach you what I know right now. And then when we did The Wait, it was like, all right, well, let's just talk about relationships and how that can help. And with the Hollywood Commandments, it's the same thing. It's like, hey, here's what I've learned, over these 20 years being in Hollywood. Let me teach you how to get to where I am, but at the same time, I don't want you to think I'm at the mountaintop looking down. As my pastor would say, who's my uncle, I'm a beggar trying to tell other beggars where to find bread, right? We're just all doing this together.
It's like an each one teach one, each one
Absolutely.
reach one philosophy, even while you're continuing in your own path of production and writing. And by the way, the new book is The Hollywood Commandments.
Yeah.
That's the brand new one coming out like last week. Came
out Tuesday. Yeah. So we're out in stores. Thank you.
And this is a combination of faith and career.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And something that you've continued to combine. And I think it seems like the core of this book is about how you don't have to choose between success in the capitalist,
right.
wide world of entertainment and faith.
That's right. And I think too often, we think that either if you're, of faith and you're on the spiritual side, you feel like you have to compromise, in order to find success in the secular world. Or if you're in the secular world, you don't think, there's not too much of value to learn spiritually. And I say that both are wrong. There's something to be learned from both sides. We're not all just spiritual. We're not all just secular. We're all a combination. So how do you harness the power of both? And so being in Hollywood for 20 years, I've had to navigate, the ins and outs of the industry while maintaining what I believe and maintaining my faith. And I wanted to write a book not about Hollywood. This is not a book about Hollywood. I extract lessons from Hollywood so that any reader, no matter what walk of life they're in, they can learn the value of being spiritual and secular and how to use that as a combination for their own personal success.
And your success actually, it's been an asset for you. You've turned what some people might say as, could hold you back in Hollywood, being too, not wild enough or, not edgy enough. You're definitely not an edgelord.
Right.
Turning faith in film, in your books, and in your personal decisions into a plus.
Yeah, what it is commandment number 8 in the book is called your difference is your destiny. And I believe that. And I believe that, I'm not completely, spiritual for the secular folks, and I'm not completely secular for the spiritual folks. Like, I don't really fit into either group completely. And so over the years, as I've tried to fit in more to the secular at the expense of my spiritual side, or I've tried to fit more into the spiritual side at the expense of my secular side, I really haven't found the peace I wanted. So as I started owning my difference, and you talk about Hollywood, being African American, being Christian, owning these things has actually been the path to success in a business that people say, oh, well, you have to kind of fit in. And I said, well, I don't believe that. I have to be who I am. And so owning that difference was something I really wanted to help other people do, because too often we feel like we're not good enough. We feel like we have to exchange what makes us different for what makes us common just to fit into someone else's idea of who we should be or someone else's industry of who they may want us to be. So for me, it just happened to be owning those things that were unique to me. And interestingly enough, the industry conformed around that. I didn't have to conform to be in it. They actually conformed around me. And I don't believe that I'm just one of one. That's why I wanted to write that commandment and write the book, to help people know, like, listen, if I just own who I am and I learn the industry that I'm in, I can actually use that to catapult my success, not keep me back.
And it's so true. What I've learned being here in Los Angeles is that people are copycats, right?
Yes.
So if we're all copying each other, then and there's no original anything, then it ends up being just pablum.
Completely. Right? Yeah, no, I totally. I mean, in that commandment, I talk about sequelitis. And in Hollywood, sequelitis means that, you know, the movie-going audience is tired of all these sequels and reboots because there's no originality. I mean, think about it. You know, the Star Wars is still being made.
Right.
Now, listen, I love Star Wars. No disrespect to anybody involved in Star Wars. However, where's the next Star Wars?
Right.
Because we're so dependent on the same thing that we aren't allowing originality to shine. But when it does, you Get Out. Think about Get Out.
Yeah.
Incredibly original, incredibly successful. And that's what I believe we have the power to harness in our own life when we own our originality.
Incredibly original, incredibly successful, and incredibly not an existing formula, which means some kind of stepping out on
faith.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And what's cool about that is then now that creates a new model.
Right. I need to Get Out. You have something like Get Out.
There you go.
I need another DeVon
There you
Franklin.
go.
Bring me another DeVon Franklin.
I mean, that is Hollywood.
Yeah. So many things going through my head right now.
Yeah.
I mean, one, in the ancient African spiritual traditions, one of the things they say is that all life should be a prayer. So ideally, everything we do should be spoken as prayer. Every move we make is a prayer. Most of us aren't there yet.
We're trying.
Right. So, right. And on the other end of the spectrum is, as you've pointed out in your book, some of us feel that we have to be sexier, speedier, edgier, in order to succeed and make decisions that are not in alignment with our own philosophy or what we consider to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're kind of taking the position that the church is not teaching you everything,
right? And
neither is Hollywood. I mean, you say in the book that there's some things you say here would get you not invited to certain churches. Like some things you learned from Hollywood you couldn't learn from church, and some things
that's right.
you learned from church that Hollywood couldn't teach.
That's right. You know, sometimes I think we put too much on the church. And also I think that church serves a great purpose, but you got to get out there and live. And you got to really absorb wherever you are to figure out, okay, well, what are the rules for success? What are the rules for engagement? How do I deal with people I may not like? How do I deal with politics? Like, those are things that are very hard to learn, you know, from the church. And so when I talk about in the book, you know, I said, listen, the church definitely gave my spiritual grounding. You know, I grew up in Oakland, you know, the church I was involved in, and still there to this day. Wings of Love Maranatha Ministries on 70th and MacArthur. Oaktown, you know, the town. I was just there this past weekend. And it was great. It really laid a strong foundation for me. However, I had to go to Hollywood. I had to go to an industry to really learn how to become successful. Well, what does that look like? How do I actually play out what I believe on a day-to-day basis? Because too often, you know, we go to church on the weekend, and then a lot of times we put that down. We compartmentalize it, and then we go to work, and we don't see how the two can blend. And I've seen, like, okay, when I actually apply what I've learned on the weekend day to day, and then I combine that with what I'm actually learning on the job. Very, very hard to learn how to navigate your industry from someone who has not been in your industry. So wherever you're working, there's a value, there's a resource, there's knowledge there. People that can teach you, oh, here's how you become successful in this industry. Here's how you get mentored. Here's how you can be of service. So I articulate that in the book to say we need to, especially as people of faith, a lot of times we've been taught to beware of secular environments. You know, I mean, growing up, it's like, oh, no, be careful, you're going to go too far. Well, what that does is it actually it teaches us a culture of fear. Because instead of having faith, which means we can do all things and we can walk by faith, not by sight, and do everything that God has called us to do, we feel like, well, wait a minute, I have to be cautious. So as a kid, I would challenge that. I would say, well, wait a minute, tell me what works. Does faith work or fear work? Because you're teaching me that faith works theologically, intellectually, but practically, you're teaching me to be afraid.
You're walking in fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was about hitting that fear head on and saying, you know what? I got to go wherever God is calling me. And as I've done that, that's why I want to teach others how to do the same thing. Go where God is calling you. Don't be afraid. There is valuable knowledge that you can use to help become who you were created to be. And that is the fundamental thing. So many people of us, how many people are living a happy life right now? We get up, we go to work, we go to bed. You are because you're walking in your calling.
But not all the time. I mean, it hasn't always been that way.
Right.
Not all the time. And that's one of my goals is to make happy the default.
I love that. Yeah.
We can hop off that, but how quickly can we hop back over there to happy?
You got that right.
But you also emphasize, and I love this in the book, you say, don't pray for what you can do yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The commandment number 1 is your prayers alone aren't enough. Now, again, just the idea of looking at prayer differently. Like, some churches are like, nope, DeVon, you can't come. You can't come, right? And that's the fact. That's not just, hyperbole. It's true. And I said, it's all right. The message of God, the churches that God wants me to go to, I'll go. But I say this in the first commandment, that too often we pray and then we don't do.
Right.
Faith without works is dead. So faith with works is alive. And what I mean in that commandment is that God's not going to give us something that we have the ability to get ourselves. It's like if there's a drink of water right there, I don't need to pray for water. It's right here.
Go get the cup.
Go get the cup.
Yeah, and I love the analogy that you use of parents. As parents, we want to give our children all of the skills and the opportunity, but we don't want to do everything for them or they'll be completely helpless. And if that's how God is looking at us, then we got to get off our butts.
Totally, completely, because then he actually doesn't do us a service. If all we have to do is pray and everything comes to us and we don't have to participate, then we actually don't learn in the process. And I believe that we serve a God who wants us to grow, who wants us to learn, who wants us to mature. So as a result, we have to participate. In that commandment, I also say pray and prepare. So everything you pray for, you got to get up and prepare for it. Because when I prepare, that means I actually believe my prayers are going to be answered.
Well, I got to say, reading your book definitely was inspiring for me because I have been doing this a long time, right? And I love my job. But some days you do want to phone it in. Yeah. You're just like, ugh. And the other piece of that is I think we forget that you can never stop preparing, right?
That's right.
Because you say, people say they want to be something, then you talk to them and say, what have you been doing? Like, what movie? Oh, you want to be a movie director? Well, what movies have you seen lately? And they can't name one, in 2017. Then that means that's not really what you want to do. So maybe we need to look at what we're actually spending our time on. Is that
right? Absolutely. No, I say that your research either betrays your passion or it confirms it.
Right.
And too often people say, oh, I want to do it. It sounds good. Okay, cool. How much time are you devoting to it? We were all born with 2 things in this world, time and talent. What we do with one determines what happens with the other. And I believe that too often we squander our time at the expense of our talent. So this idea I mentioned in the book is true. It's like I come across so many people who say, oh, I want to be in Hollywood. I want to be an actor. Oh, really? So what actors are you watching? What classes are you auditing? Okay, cool. Maybe you don't want it that bad yet.
Right. Maybe what you really want is to run a dispensary because that's where you're spending all your time and money. I'm just saying.
Oh,
so, by the way, before I forget, thank you for being part of our KJLH Men's Empowerment.
Oh, of course. You're welcome.
It was really important to us.
Oh, wow. I was grateful to do it. It was awesome. We had an amazing time. I mean, there were so many brothers that came out. Which was great. I mean, I anticipated there would be, but to actually be there and see it, and not just, the older guys, I mean, the young guys too. It was incredible. And I'm so grateful that it's the first one, and I'm excited for the ones that are yet to come. And
that kind of fellowship, I mean, I think among brothers, but just in our community is so important.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's missing. It's missing. We actually need it more consistently. And I do think that, when I was there, you just see the power of what community does. When we can get together. And it wasn't even always so much about the dialogue. It was just about, hey, we can just get together and be with one another. Because so many times we just spend life individually and we're pursuing our career with our family. But it's like, hey, let me just get together and plug into the larger collective. And there was so much power just in doing that.
You can call us 520-KJLH, 520-5554. We're talking with New York Times bestselling author, DeVon Franklin. His new book is The Hollywood Commandments. It is about Hollywood in the sense that that's where you work.
Correct.
But it's really about our own dedication to our own progress and finding our purpose.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And you know, sometimes the title, you know, fools people. It's like, oh, that's about Hollywood. Well, no, you know, it's Hollywood is truly one of the most successful industries in the world. And it has endured, you know, political issues. It's endured economic issues. And so I say, well, look, what has made Hollywood longstanding? And I literally have extracted information and put it into the form of these 10 life-changing rules for success. So anyone can apply them to become more successful in their life and actually sustain it. Because too often we talk about, oh, how do I get it? Okay, getting it's one thing. When you get it, how do you hold on to it?
Well, and you're an interesting example because you've done a lot of things that people say we can't do.
Right.
You came to Hollywood and actually worked your way into the studio system. You know, you've been a studio executive, vice president, on a level that we always hear African Americans rarely go to. And then you walked away from that.
Yeah.
To do your own production company, which is another thing that's unheard of. I mean, you said you got that from God. Okay, time to
quit.
Time to get out of the boat.
Yeah, I had been at Sony Pictures for almost 10 years. And, you know, worked on everything from Pursuit of Happiness to The Karate Kid to Jumping the Broom to Sparkle, Not Easily Broken, and then did Heaven is for Real. Back in 2014, I was the executive that oversaw that film. We made it for $15 million. It did $30 million in the first 5 days. And 2 days later, I was in the chairman's office of Sony Pictures, who was my boss, and she was like, oh, you know, we want to promote you. I said, no, it's time for me to go. It was literally a get out of the boat moment.
That's the legendary Amy Pascal, right?
Yes, the legendary Amy Pascal.
Like, I'm out.
I'm out.
Okay.
It's time to get out of the boat. And,
who does that?
You know, I don't know. If you got to be crazy or you got to believe in God or both. And in my case, it was both because I just believed that God was setting up this moment. So I went in and said, it's time for me to quit. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, you know, your movie just worked. What do you mean? I said, it's time for me to start my production company. I came to Hollywood. That's what I wanted to do. And now is the moment to do it. And I said, but I want you to fund it. I want you to give me a deal.
Yeah.
And she said,
sure.
she said, okay, but you can't negotiate with anyone else. And what I love about telling that story was that I came to Hollywood at 18 years old, and I always believed I was going to have a production company, and that's what I wanted. But it took 18 years to get it. 18 years, 157,000 hours, over 6,500 days of showing up every day, showing up, committing to the process, never knowing when the company was going to come. Now, what I loved about the opportunity to get the company was once I saw things align, I still had to participate. I had to have enough faith to step into it. And if I was afraid, I would still be an executive at Sony now and not living in the fullness of my calling. And the window that was open for me to do it was very narrow. Why? Because as soon as I went and asked for the production company, it took a couple months to negotiate. By the time it was negotiated, the Sony hack hit where North Korea hacked the Sony computers.
I remember. Wow.
All that information came out, and the chairman, Amy, ended up losing her job as a result. If I had waited any longer, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
The storm was coming.
The storm was coming. Yeah. That's why there's an urgency. And that's why I share the story is to motivate people. If you feel God moving, if you feel like it's time to do it, don't delay because we don't know how long those windows stay open.
It's an important point, and I think, but it's scary when those moments come. It's like, but then I could end up with no job. I could end up with nothing.
Yeah, but you know, again, it's not an emotional decision. It's an educated one. You know, I knew that having been in the business for 18 years and having had a strong foundation of knowing my craft and having the relationships and knowing how to make movies, I knew that it was time to make the move, especially given the success of the most recent film that I did. So it was not like emotional. It was like, oh, okay, all of these things are aligning. This makes sense. Now let me step out in faith, face my fear, and see what happens. And to you know, as a blessing, it all worked out. And I do believe it works out when we step in faith, especially when we do it from a standpoint of not being like emotional, but really thinking through it and really knowing that the environment is ready to receive what it is we're trying to do.
You know, I mean, I can't say I've ever been an executive at Sony or anything like that. But when you know my show Home Turf in the Bay Area, because you're from the Bay Area.
Yes.
When that show ended, I was laid off. I guess, whatever, show ends after 8 years. I just put all my stuff in a U-Haul and came to L.A. I didn't know anyone.
I was like,
I was always wanted to be, you know, in the entertainment industry. L.A. is where it's all happening.
Yeah.
Let me get a U-Haul.
Wow.
And, you know, a lot of my friends and stuff thought I was crazy because I didn't know anyone here and it didn't seem like a good idea. And other people were saying, well, we could do a home turf-like show over here. But then I'll be duplicating myself and I'll be a pale imitation of myself trying to be a teenager when I'm not a teenager anymore.
Right.
So I think, you know, it was scary and it worked out.
Totally.
You know, but I wish I could do that more. Sometimes I'm afraid to step out on faith, you know, and you stay in it consistently. And I know, I mean, you're a young guy. You're not even 40 yet. And people must look at you like, oh, you're going to inspire me. Oh, you're going to be a preacher. You're going to tell me how to be an executive. I mean,
yeah, but you know what? I try to live it. You know that. I mean, this faith walk is a continuous thing. And I always look back and say, okay, well, if I don't do it, will I regret it? And the answer is yes. You know, even writing this book, you know, this is an endeavor of faith. I mean, you know, my day job is, you know, I make movies, I make television shows. I have a deal with Fox. I mean, you know, all this stuff is like because I'm just committed to my purpose, you know, writing and being out here and getting up at 4 a.m. to come here.
To
come to Inglewood. Because I just feel like, all right, God, you know, I got to commit to the process and also have faith. You know, I believe that God is doing a number of things, even in my own life. Even now I'm in faith over things. So for me, it's like, all right, let me just make that a practice. I don't want to get to the place where it's like, well, let me tell you what I did. I want to actually tell you what I'm doing as a way to help you.
Flashback Friday, every Friday. You're right. So then it becomes, you know, because a lot of people say, oh, you made it. Why get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to KJLH in Inglewood? Why go to the Men's Empowerment Congress and kick it with the people?
Right.
But that's about your definition of success. And I like the definition of success that you give in the book, The Hollywood Commandments.
Yes. Peace. Success is peace. You know, when you like who looks back at you in the mirror, you are successful. When you can wake up and feel like, you know what, I like who I am, that's successful. That's peace to me. Because too often we think that success are the material things, the position, the money, the car, the house, even the right spouse, all those things. Oh, that's success.
Well, a lot of people will look at you and say, but you have the money, the car, the right spouse,
yes,
for sure.
But here's the thing. It's because I've done the internal. It's because I have the internal piece. The things that you see on the outside are a reflection of what I have internally. It's not that I went externally and got those things and then tried to obtain those things for me to become peaceful. And I do believe that if we pursue peace, then we will be successful. And I wanted to articulate that because so often the way that the world teaches success is it's like, oh, you know, you got to have this car and all that kind of stuff. You know, if you have those cars and all that, that's fine. If that comes as part of your purpose and that's your reward for the problems you solve in the earth, great. God bless you. But I don't want people to pursue those things at the expense of pursuing the internal work. You know, what am I here to do? Why do I want to do it? What's my passion? And also, who am I here to help? Because that, to me, is really where our peace is. Our peace is when we're helping other people. I believe that. And that's why I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's why I would do, you know, these things, because I'm just passionate about that. And I feel that even beyond Hollywood, you know, I'm here to help others. And if that requires my personal sacrifice, then so be it. If that requires me to be a living, breathing example of faith, then so be it. Because when I see the peace that I've been able to achieve, I'm like, yo, y'all got to get this. You got to get it because you can be even more content in your life than you are right now. And that to me is the part that I think too often I see people resign themselves to, oh, well, this is just the way it's going to be. And this is just the way it is. So instead of hoping more or having a higher expectation of life, we lower our expectation. We lower our hope. We lower our faith and just try to be comfortable in the contentment. And I'm saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't want you just to live your life. And at the end of it, you say, oh, well, that was all right because we only get this life once. So why not do the best we can? Why not live by faith? Why not challenge ourselves? Why not get uncomfortable? Because what we know is we're never going to look back and say, oh, man, I wish I hadn't stepped out in faith. Look, you talking about the U-Haul. We're here because of the U-Haul right now.
Yeah,
that's right. That U-Haul filled with faith.
And saying, but this is what I always said I was going to do. like to hit the phones if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
of course,
Some
let's
folks that
do it.
want to talk to you. You remind me of my friend Miss Shabazi, eldest daughter of Malcolm X, one day on this show. She said, we have to look at our definition of success because we think about money, we think about cars, but then the people we hold up as role models, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Gandhi, didn't have no money.
That's right.
So by that measure, they were failures. So then we have to look at what is it that we aspire to.
That's right.
Want to go to Jeremy from Los Angeles. Good morning, Jeremy. You're radio free on 102.3 KJLH. Welcome.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for taking the call. DeVon, it's a pleasure just listening to you. Dominique as well. You guys have been someone that I've listened to ever since I was young. I just had a question. Earlier you were referring to, transitioning into your career, doing what you ultimately came out to California for. I just wanted to know personally, when did you guys know it was time to actually make that transition? So you're working on something, you're getting that education, you're getting that experience, that knowledge, but when did you actually know, okay, now I'm going to actually transition into what my ultimate goal was, which was to actually become an entrepreneur and turn this thing into money for myself?
I mean, well, for me, from being from the Bay Area, always having a desire to work in Hollywood, I knew that I had to come to LA because LA is the capital of Hollywood, essentially. And so I knew I had to be in the environment. And sometimes we have to go where the environment can help produce the very thing that we're looking for. So I came down to Los Angeles at 18 years old, interned at the management company that managed Will Smith, interned for him in various capacities for about 4 years, became an assistant after I graduated, then became a junior executive, then became an executive at MGM, did that for a year and a half, then became an executive at Sony for almost 10 years, and then started the production company. So for me, it was just about taking it step by step, getting in the environment, committing to the process, learning along the way, and in the process, waiting for the right moment when I knew it would be time to step out. I didn't know the moment was going to be 18 years. I didn't know.
It's patience, too,
Yep.
though. I mean, one of my things that I clown about is that people are always looking for a hookup. Hook me up, hook me up.
Right.
But the real hookup is showing up and
That's
doing
it.
the work and showing you have some hustle.
There you go.
I think. But Jeremy, to your question, I mean, it sounds like the transition that he's talking about is that moment when you said, I'm going to leave, my position as an executive and start my own production company. But there are so many steps in what could be called transitions along the way, right?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, so many of them. That's why I said earlier, it's important to not let emotion drive the decision. When I made the choice to step out of it, to be from the executive ranks to start my own production company, it was a decision, based on a lot of analysis. Like, okay, I have a movie that just worked. I'm beginning to build a brand of this kind of inspirational, faith-based content in Hollywood. People know me as a personality. I have great relationships. I've worked on, 20 movies already as an executive. Like, I really looked at it because too often we just want it, so we just step out. But we haven't done the work to prepare ourselves. So I knew that there was a platform that was there for me because I had been working there for so long and learned the business. So when I made the move and stepped out, I didn't know if they were going to say yes. But to be honest, I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I know now is the time. Because when I looked at the math of my career, I realized, you know what? I've done everything I can do at this stage. So in order to grow, I'm going to have to step out and start again on the next level.
That requires some kind of objectivity about your own work.
Yes, but here's where the objectivity comes. It comes from knowing the industry. It comes from having good people, mentors in my life that can help me understand what to do and when to do and how to do. And I think it's important, Jeremy, again, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to figure out your business, make sure you're seeking the counsel of other entrepreneurs who have done it. And sometimes you don't have to actually meet that person to get their counsel. So many entrepreneurs out there have written their own books. They have their own blogs. They're posting their own information. So you can get a virtual mentor, which is something I talk about in the Hollywood Commandments. Virtual mentorship is important, and you can get it because now, more than any time ever in the history of the earth, there's more information available to us at our fingertips. So I would encourage you, Jeremy, before you make a decision, do your homework, do the math, make sure that this is the right time to do it. And if it's not, Commit to wherever you are while you're still preparing for one day to make the leap. Even though I had committed to a job for 18 years, I was always preparing. Okay, here's what I'm going to do one day when I get my company. Here's the type of content. I was always doing that. It was just 18 years later when I knew it was time to actually make the move.
We're talking with DeVon Franklin. His new book, The Hollywood Commandments, is out right now. And if you want to get more in depth into some of these things we're talking about and some of the actual philosophy and methodology behind the moves that he's making, you can check out the book. You can find it now at bookstores everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I know S1 has it.
Yes, S1 has it. Barnes and Noble has it. I mean, it's everywhere. iTunes, Amazon, Books A Million, wherever books are sold, you can get The Hollywood Commandments.
And we got some folks on the phones. The Hollywood Commandments is the book. The last book, The Wait.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to interview you and your wife, the beautiful Megan Good, who's beautiful on the inside and the outside,
yes,
by the way.
Definitely.
I didn't realize how much so. And that was really inspiring. I mean, I feel like just talking to the two of you really touched me personally.
Oh, wow.
Because sometimes you feel like, you can't understand why things aren't happening the way you want them to happen.
Right.
You feel discouraged or you feel frustrated or you're going, what's wrong with me?
Right.
What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And talking to you guys, I mean, you're talking about your relationship in the book and how you chose to wait to marriage, to consummate, to actually have sex. But I was applying it to my life in other areas. And this idea that sometimes the wait is really fertile ground, right?
Yes.
And it to me, it was in alignment with what you talk about in the Hollywood Commandments, which is preparation.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. The wait is preparation. And sometimes because we're impatient and we want what we want when we want it, we don't like the process that preparation brings us. And that patience, when you are patient and you're waiting for something, it's like, okay, well, what do I want to do at this time? Do I want to spend this time frustrated, in anxiety, depressed, or do I want to prepare myself to receive the person that I believe is on the way? And we believe that the waiting period is a great time of preparation. And that's why I also talk about it, in the book, because I believe the Hollywood Commandments is like the perfect book while you're waiting, because it literally gives you things to focus on and what you can actually do in the waiting period. Because let's be honest, waiting for the right person is difficult. It's hard. It takes time. I mean, some nights you cry yourself to sleep. You're like, Lord, when they going to show up? But if you have some things to occupy your time where you can be productive, I think it actually helps you endure and get the most out of that waiting period.
And whether it's the right person, the right relationship,
yeah,
the right
that's true.
job,
Right job. That's right. We're all waiting for something.
Whatever it is, waiting for that child that you want to be blessed with.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I loved about, the conversation and the book is that the wait almost isn't a wait. Because if you think about, if I get my job my dream job, of course, I love the front page. But let's say I'm on MSNBC tomorrow doing my show.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have time for so many of the things that I want to do. And then I'm going to look back and go, I should have taken my son to Harry Potter. I should have, I should have studied and read that book that I've been meaning to get to. And now I don't have time. And if you look at it that way, whatever it is, you manifest that baby or that marriage, what will you not have time for then that you could do now? Then it's not really a wait.
So true. But the thing about it is, and this is why we wrote the book, it's like too often we look at it and we deem it, this is the waiting period.
Yes.
And along with that comes all the emotion that waiting comes with, which is frustration and depression and, I don't want to do it. But when you look at it through this lens, it's like, wait, this is actually great time. This is why, like, even when you're single, it's like single period of time. It's like awesome because you can really be selfish. You can focus on yourself. You can do what you want. Because when you get married, you can, a lot of that goes out the window to a degree.
You're going to be busy.
You're going to be busy. You have other people to consider. And then also when you talk about your career or your life, it's like you look back and say, why was I so worried? Because a lot of the things that we really want to have happen ultimately happen. So why not spend the time while we're worried and anxiety? Say, no, let me enjoy the time. What can I get out of this time? So that when I look back, I can say, you know what? That was time well spent.
Yeah. So a big thank you to you and Megan Good, your wife, because you guys really got me fired up and inspired. And then I had a girlfriend calling me who's been dating a man and they're not having sex. They've decided they're going to wait.
Okay.
And she was just frustrated, she's been married before and, she's not a virgin. Sorry.
That's all right.
And I told her to go get your book.
Oh, wow.
And she did. And she read it and she was like, okay, because what she started doing was working on herself.
Yeah.
You know, I need to do this. I need to do that for my health. I need to get this in order, do all my taxes. And so, you know,
well, thank you for doing that.
It's
I'm glad it was helpful for
serial helpfulness. You work out. Do you eat healthy? I mean, aside from all the praying and stuff.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, you know what? Interesting that you mentioned that, because too often I don't think that we look enough at our health as spiritual as it really is. Because a lot of time, we are praying, but we aren't getting up and going to the gym. So if y'all listening right now, go to the gym, get there, because what good is having a healthy spirit if the temple is crumbling? Yeah. And so I believe it. When I'm not on the road, I'm working out 4 times, 5 times a week, doing the Matrix. If anybody know Don Matrix over on Melrose and Fairfax, come and do the Matrix. That class, right. Don trains Kanye and Chloe and Kim, and I am like, his class is addicting. It is hard, but it's fantastic.
And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times we think, people like you, he's naturally muscular, he's naturally thin, he's naturally energetic. And that all may be, but you also have to do the work. People always tell me, you're naturally little. Yeah, I'm naturally little because I work out 6 days a week. And I don't, and I eat certain things. Like I don't eat a lot of carbs. I eat a lot of protein and vegetables. Right. That's why I'm naturally little.
Yes, it takes work, though. It takes work. It really, really takes work to do it. It takes a commitment, but I believe in it. That's one of the things I'm feeling compelled to write about next. Is the value of taking care of the temple, and that is as spiritual as any other practice that we would do. Because too often it's like, if I come in your house and I spray paint your walls and I tear up your couches, what are you going to say? You're going to kick me out. But the food we eat does the exact same thing.
And the body is a miracle. It's so forgiving.
It is. Oh, my goodness.
And it does so many things for us without us ever asking. So, I have to agree on that. I couldn't get up at 3 a.m. 5 days a week if it wasn't for the workouts.
Yeah, and I couldn't do what I do if it wasn't for the workouts. It really is the workout that gives the endurance and the ability to sustain and maintain. I've been going, on this book tour since last week. We're talking New York. Went from New York to Virginia, Virginia to Sacramento, Sacramento to Oakland here, going to St. Louis over the weekend to preach 5 times, then going from St. Louis to Dallas, and then coming back, and then going to Orlando. I couldn't do it if I hadn't been working on the temples, working out, eating right, in order to have the energy to sustain the purpose. That's why I get so excited talking about this, because sometimes we think the blessings are light. Blessings weigh something. So we just want the blessing. We think, it's going to be easy. No, blessings weigh something.
We want the blessing without the burden.
That's it. They come hand in hand. Yeah. And so we have to prepare our body to be able to handle the blessing when it arrives, so that it doesn't crush us and we can actually maintain it.
Back to careful what you ask for.
That's right. Let's
go to Wendell from Los Angeles. Good morning, Wendell. You have the floor. Welcome. You're on with DeVon Franklin.
Hey, greetings. First of all, Dominique, if I may, thanks for having Dr. Mabel John again. She's such a beacon to the community. And to this impressive young brother that you have on there, your production company, and do you have any contact information if I want to, share ideas or get some advice or anything like that from you? And also, one more thing. What you're doing, I really appreciate it. But are you familiar with the Merge? Have you ever joined forces with them?
Of course. Yeah,
that's why when you were saying that, it really resonated. I said, this sounds similar to the Merge. And also, you said something that we got to get out of our comfort zone, because that's the way that we can grow.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Wendell. So you can go to DeVonFranklin.com, and you right there on the contact page. That's the best way to, contact the company. I have a team, and we monitor every inquiry that comes through there, and we get tremendous amount of inquiries about the company through DeVonFranklin.com. And on the Merge, of course, Dr. Holly Carter is like, my older sister. I'm on the board of the Merge. I speak there every year. It's a fantastic conference. Next year is year 10. And we'll be back in LA, and we every month Merge basically sponsors a Bible study called Ascend that I teach the fourth Tuesday of every month. So yes, Dr. Holly Card and I are close. We just set up a new project. I'm I don't know if I can even talk about it yet, but I'm going to mention it because it's good. We set up an animated film with Fox called Music to My Ears, and it's a hybrid film. It's kind of like the gospel version of the animated film Sing. So we're really, really excited about that. So yes, that's my sister, and I'm so grateful that I could partner with her on so many things that we're trying to do, and she's a legend, so I'm just like blessed to know her.
And you continue to multitask. You've got films in the pipeline. You have at least one television show in the pipeline.
Yes.
For Netflix, I understand.
Yeah. I got a Netflix show, Hulu show. Megan, Megan is doing Foxy Brown. She's doing Foxy Brown for Hulu, and I'm producing that. Along with Tony Krantz. I have a new film that'll be out November 17th called The Star. It's the animated story of the Nativity, but it's told from the animal's point of view. And we have, Oprah.
And a star-studded cast, right?
Oh, yeah. Oprah, Tyler Perry, Tracy Morgan, they all played the camels that the wise men ride in on. We have Anthony Anderson. We have Kristen Chenoweth, Kelly Clarkson, Gina Rodriguez, who plays Mary. That was a little bit of typecasting there. We have Zachary Levi. Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead plays the lead character, Bo, who's the donkey that carries Mary and Joseph to the manger. And we also have Mariah Carey, who did the lead single for the movie, which is just incredible. Amazing. Wait till you hear. I mean, when you hear this song, it is going to motivate you. It reminds me of a little bit of I Believe I Can Fly. Like it's that kind of song that just takes you where you are and elevates you. Kirk Franklin also did a record which is like a reimagining of We Three Kings. It is incredible. Yolanda Adams brings the house down with the rendition of Oh Holy Night. I mean, we have just a phenomenal cast and soundtrack and music to really bring the story to life, because this is a story about Christmas and the origin of it. And what better way than talking animals and good music to tell the story?
Sounds like a classic in the making. DeVon Franklin, thank you so much for coming to Inglewood and being part of our front page and our Radio Free KJLH family.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Today, in the words of Maya Angelou, let me remember to try to be the rainbow in someone's cloud. Amen. Till next time, Radio Free family, one love.
We honestly